Hello everyone, hope you're all well and welcome to another Year 5-6 English tutorial. Today we are going to be looking at writing expanded noun phrases, but in particular we're going to be looking at writing expanded noun phrases using a relative clause. But first of all, we're going to recap right back to the beginning to what exactly a noun phrase is. So a noun phrase in its most basic form is a noun and the determiner that goes with it. So remember, a noun is a person, a place, a thing, or an idea. So that could be a teacher, a school, it could be a book, or an idea like freedom or justice or sadness. Okay, and a determiner, remember, is a word that goes in front of a noun, a word like the, a, an, those, that, some, many. Okay, so in its simplest form, it might look something like this. So there's my determiner, the, and my noun, the word book. Okay, and there we would have a very simple noun phrase. It becomes an expanded noun phrase when we add words either before or after or both before or after our noun. Okay, and those sorts of words are called modifiers. So for when we first start doing this down in year 1, we would expect our children to be able to add in just one adjective before the noun. So we'd start with our determiner, the, we'd add in one adjective like the word thick and one noun like the word book. Okay, and there we have a very simple expanded noun phrase. By the time we get to year 2 and 3, we expect the children to be able to add in 2 adjectives. And when we do that, we need to remember to separate them with a comma. So then we would have something like this: the thick, comma, dusty, book. Okay? Then when we get to year 4, that's when we start adding words after our noun. Okay, so we're going to keep the beginning as it is, and in year 4 we would expect children to start to add in prepositional phrases. So they are the phrases that tell us where or when our noun is. So if I add in this one here, we would have the thick dusty book on the shelf. Okay, and then by year 5 and 6 we start adding in more complicated things. So we start adding in prepositional phrases. So you might add something like this, sorry, not a prepositional phrase, a present participle phrase. So something like waiting to be read. So the thick dusty book waiting to be read. So a phrase that starts with an ing word. And if you're not sure about that, then I've just done another video on the year 5 and 6 pages. And then this is the one we're going to be looking at today. We could add a relative clause at the end of our expanded noun phrase. So then it would read something like the thick dusty book that he chose. And this is the one that we're going to be focusing on today. So I'm just going to peel this bit off without taking off half of my wall with it. And we can have a look at what we are doing today. So we are looking mainly at adding a relative clause. So what exactly is a relative clause so that we know to add it? Well, a relative clause is a clause that begins with a relative pronoun. And that is a word like the word that, which, who, where, when, or whose. Okay, I'm going to give you a few examples because all of these things are easier to understand once they're explained, once you see them being done. So I'm going to give you a few examples and then you can have a go at doing your own. So I'm just going to grab my pens. Okay, so the first one that I'm going to start with is the teacher. Okay, so I am going to use the determiner the. And I'm going to use 2 adjectives this time. I'm going to say the tiny, and then I'm going to remember my comma, inconspicuous. So that means someone who wouldn't be noticed particularly. So inconspicuous. Just need to concentrate while I spell that. Inconspicuous. Inconspicuous. Yes, sorry, think tiny inconspicuous. And I'm going to put the word teacher there. The inconspicuous teacher. Because it is a person, normally you would use the pronoun who. So that's the one that I'm going to add now. So I'm going to say the tiny inconspicuous teacher, and I'm going to say who ruled her classroom or her class, and I'm going to say like a dictator. And I don't need a full stop at the end because I am not writing a whole sentence. This would just be a part of my sentence. So I've got the tiny inconspicuous teacher who ruled her class like a dictator. So it might be part of the sentence that said all of the children had heard about the tiny inconspicuous teacher who ruled her class like a dictator. Okay? I'm going to do it again with another noun. So this time we are going to use an abstract noun, so an idea sort of a noun, and that's going to be the word time. Okay, and this one's going to be slightly topical, I think. So I am going to say, again, I'm going to use the as my determiner. Remember, it doesn't always have to be the. There are lots of other determiners that you could choose. I'm going to say the euphoric time. Euphoric. If something is euphoric, it just means it is really exciting. Something really exciting that you really enjoy. So the euphoric time. And because I'm talking about time, I'm going to choose the pronoun when to begin my relative clause. So I'm going to say the euphoric time when we are free again. All feeling a little bit trapped at the minute. The euphoric time when we are free again. And it doesn't need a full stop at the end because it would be part of a bigger sentence. So it might be something like the euphoric time when we are free again is something we are all looking forward to. Okay? And then the final example I'm going to give you is one that's using this really tricky word here. This is the trickiest pronoun to use, which is the word whose. And you need to make sure that you don't confuse it with the word whose with an apostrophe, which is who is. Okay, it's this one here we're going to be using whose. Okay, and I'll show you how we can do that. So I'm going to say, I'm going to get rid of all my adjectives so we can just focus on the main part. So I'm just going to say, I'm going to use the noun bird. So I'm going to say the bird. And I've already told you I'm going to use the pronoun whose. So I'm going to say the bird whose wing was broken. Okay, and again, it doesn't need a full stop at the end because it would be part of a bigger sentence. It's just a noun phrase. It would be part of a longer sentence. So the bird whose wing was broken. So whose is a pronoun we use when we're talking about something that belongs to it. So it might be the man whose hat fell off in the wind. It might be the dog whose lead had broken. So it's something that belongs to this noun here. Okay, so what I would like you to do, and your first challenge, is I would like you to try and turn these very simple noun phrases into an expanded noun phrase using a relative clause. So remember, it will need to start with one of these relative pronouns here, just like my examples here. So we've got the word the boy, the place, his window, a path, those memories, the suspect, a car, and the moment. Okay, so if you pause the video there so that you can see the words, try turning each of those into an expanded noun phrase using a relative clause. and hopefully you have had a go at doing that now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this down. Now remember, there is no right or wrong answer really. There are lots of different options you could have. I'm just going to take you through how you can check whether yours are correct. So I chose the noun memories. So we can see here that I've started with a determiner. I've got my noun memories there. I can see my adjective in here, the word unwanted. So we've got those unwanted memories. And then I can see my relative clause. At the end, it starts with a relative pronoun here, the word that, and then that haunted him is our full relative clause. So those unwanted memories that haunted him. Okay, so it might be something like he couldn't escape those unwanted memories that haunted him. The second one I chose was the place. So I started with my determiner. I've got my noun there. I've included the word secluded as my adjective. Secluded means somewhere that's on its own, where there's not many other things around. So I've said the secluded place. I can see my relative pronoun where, which is part of my relative clause, where she always escaped. Then I chose the noun path. I can see my determiner at the beginning, a, and I've got the word path here. I've done two adjectives this time. I've done long, I've remembered my comma, and I've got winding here. I can see my relative pronoun straight after my noun, which is part of my longer relative clause, which led her home. A long winding path which led her home. And then the last one I've done is the moment. So there is my determiner and my noun. I've used the adjective exact. The exact moment. My relative pronoun is when, which is part of my relative clause, when she realised. So yours don't have to be exactly the same as that, but just check that you can see that pattern in your answers. Okay, once you've done that, for a final challenge, if you're feeling like you're ready for a little bit more, why not see if you can create a crazy, wacky piece of writing where you use all of your expanded noun phrases to create a story that takes you on a very different path. So something fantastical that you might be writing, or about a crime that might have taken place. Once you've done it, take a photo of it, and we would love to see it in one of the comments on one of our Facebook posts. But thank you very much for watching, and I hope that you keep very well.